everyone, it's Ryan from the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show here, coming at you live for another episode here at the Smokin' Studios. Thank you so much for joining in. And oh my gosh, if I saw you guys last week at the Great Smoke, thank you so much for coming up and saying hi. There was so many people there. It was the year of the dragon. That's where I got the shirt from. I got some color, can't really tell because I'm always typically like super white. But I did get a little color in the head. It was an absolutely fantastic time. I got to meet several people that watched the show. Thank you again so much. Bruce Stark, I know you're watching. Thank you so much for coming up and saying hi. We have John Schweitzer, and I knew it. Bruce is right there. He's always right there with his cigar and drink, sitting and enjoying himself, watching the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show in the Annex Lounge. Big shout out to all the sponsors that remotely make this show possible. We've got BAMFcigars.com. Oh, wait a second. I got to remove that comment. All right, we got BAMFcigars.com, ROCF Cigars. We have Kristoff Cigars. By the way, ROCF and BAMF Cigars in the description below on this video. You will see a promo code for 15% off the entire website. And ROCF Cigars sells my bacon cigar. I say my bacon cigar. He uses my grease. It's his blend. We'll explain later. If you haven't, just go watch his show and to get a little bit understanding into what I mean by bacon cigar. We have Kristoff Cigars, Sagrado Cigars. We also have Micallef Cigars. We've got Big Sky Cigars, Cornell and Diehl pipe tobacco, the official pipe tobacco of the show, as I have delved so deep into their pipe tobacco. And then Steve Saka sent me a massive box. 80% of it's Cornell and Diehl, and I'm going through it, enjoying it. And my gosh, there's so much depth, flavor, and richness to the Cornell and Diehl line. It doesn't feel old. It doesn't feel stale. And I'm even referring to some of the stuff that Steve sent me from like 3 years ago that still doesn't feel old and stale. It's great. La Aurora Cigars, a West Tampa tobacco company, as well as, of course, Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. And we can, of course, never forget the big guy himself, Abe, over at smokin.com, as this is the Smokin' Studios. Tonight, I am going to be drinking the Axe and the Oak bourbon to blend with the cigar I will be drinking. And in order for us to kind of kick the show off, because nobody wants to sit here and listen to me comment, but I do have one more thing to share with everybody. Guys, if you are going to be in the Colorado area in July, okay, July 26th, please come to this event. All right. This is the Rocky Mountain Cigar Night. My partner and I are having it at Salt and Acres there in Lupton, Colorado, benefiting the Shadow Warriors project like we did last year. Mark Osgeist, if you can see, he's the guy in the blue shirt between the two ugly guys in the hats. He is the guy from Benghazi. If you've ever seen the movie 13 Hours, he was one of the Shadow Warriors that went back into the compound to help get everybody out. He lives with still close to 30 pieces of shrapnel in his body. This is in July 26th. We're doing it from 6 to 10. Tickets are $150 a person. You're going to get appetizers, open bar, wine, beer, coffee, soft drinks. We also have a pack of at least 5 cigars. Last year we did 9 cigars. And the year before we did 9 cigars. We have a challenge coin. We have live music and a live and silent auction. You can scan your screen on that QR code, take you right to Eventbrite. Tickets are going very quickly, so please, if you are remotely interested in coming, please show up. Last year we had about 25 sponsors of the event, and we raised $30,000 to give a wounded warrior, a wounded veteran, a dog. And we are presenting the dog this year live at the show, as well as we have, I'll announce it a little bit later. You can't spit everything out here at once, even though that's normally what I do, everybody. I get it. I get it. But we're going to be dropping little stuff here and there for what we're going to be having at the event. And I'm telling you, the first 15 things we do at this event that we auction off, oh my God. I've said way too much right now. Nobody wants to hear me continue to talk. We're going to go ahead and bring in the man of the hour, the guy that a good friend of mine said I had to talk with. And actually, now I've talked with him now twice, earlier uh, yesterday and today. And we've been talking pre show. This guy's smart. He's sharp. He's funny, and he doesn't seem to pull any punches. But we'll find out. We'll find out. We'll grill him a little bit, needle him a little bit, dig into his story, dig into his background, just have an absolutely fantastic time. Welcome to the show, Enrique Seijas. How you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend. How about you?
Doing well, doing well. Hey, I'm going to give you an opportunity here to go ahead and introduce yourself. I'm going to give you the screen. I'm still going to be in the background, but I'm going to share the show so as many people can see it as possible. So go ahead and give yourself a little introduction. And everybody, if you're watching, please share the show. And if you haven't already, jump over to Facebook and or YouTube or both. And please subscribe to the show. So Enrique, the floor is yours.
So what's up, guys? I feel like I'm in high school again, standing up and presenting myself. My name is Enrique Seijas. I'm co-founder of Matilde Cigars. We've been with Matilde Cigars for about a decade, actually a decade. This year, we launched our first line in 2014. But even though we're a relatively new brand, my family's been in the industry for a little bit longer. Our story starts with my father, Jose Seijas, and 1974. In 1974, my dad graduated from university, industrial engineer. He got hired to be an industrial engineer at a tobacco sorting facility, which ended up being the Alteres Tabacalera de Garcia, which is Alteres' main manufacturing facility in the Dominican Republic. Built his way up to being the VP of operations and master blender of the company. He was responsible for blending your Montes, Romeos, HF, and Santa Damiana, and also for the manufacturing. So there was also very beautiful cigars called the Seijas Signatures in the Dominicana, which are just beautiful cigars. If you find them, buy them. My dad retired in about 2011. I was working with him at the time, and we decided that we wanted to keep in the cigar industry. My dad didn't want to retire. I was just starting out, and we set up to do Matilde. So Matilde is not my wife. It's not my wife or my dad's wife or my dad's mistress or anything like that. We wanted to pay homage to the Dominican Republic. I'm 100% Dominican. My dad's 100% Dominican. I was born and raised from La Romana. We wanted to revive something and to pay homage to the Dominican Republic. And Matilde is actually a very old brand. It was founded in 1876 by Simeon Mencia. I don't know the guy, never met him, because the company died about 1917. So as a family, we decided to revive this brand that had Dominican roots, deep Dominican roots and Dominican heritage, and revive it and make it our own. And that's where Matilde comes in. And that's our brand, Matilde, right? Ironically enough, married my wife. My mother-in-law is called Matilde, and her grandmother's called Matilde. So give me a little bit of points, right? When we founded the company, what we were looking for, my dad came from managing about 5,000 employees and making anywhere between 25 to 50 million cigars. We went down to manufacturing a couple 100,000 cigars and working with about 20 to 25 employees. And what we wanted to do was create a brand that was very accessible in different ways. And we wanted a brand that was accessible price-wise. So we kept our price points in a very good way. When it came to retailers, we wanted a thing that was accessible for the space of the retailers, thinking about our retailer partners, right? So we kept all our packaging in cabinet boxes. We also wanted the brand to be recognizable. So what we did is we created that same branding, which I will show right here. So it's
There you go.
There we go. So we have our logo is an S which represents our last name Seijas, and then Matilde in the middle. It's a logo that has an S of tobacco. That's what we deal with, and then Matilde has been protected by the tobaccos. What you're going to find within all our lines is that you're going to have the same ring, same type of box. It's going to be different colors with different line extensions. Why? I'm a firm believer that you remember faces. It's very hard to remember names sometimes. So if you smoke a Matilde, you like it, you go to the store, or you tell a friend, oh, I smoked that Matilda before. Oh, which one have you smoked? And you don't know the name, you know the color. Oh, I smoked the green one, I smoked the red one, I smoked the blue one. So it's a way for you as a consumer and for stores to be able to identify the blends that you really like. Because we really want you to go back and smoke them, right? So another thing that we wanted to do was make the cigar accessible palate-wise. When I say palate-wise, is that we don't create cigars that are super heavy or powerhouses. We want to make cigars that are full in flavor, have a lot more flavor than strength, because we want to make sure you enjoy one cigar, two cigars, three cigars, you can still stand up. And that's been our motto. We keep it simple. We blend towards flavor more than strength. Our strongest cigar with medium plus a little bit bolder, but we don't have anything like the full flavor range because we believe it would retract a little bit from the flavors that you want to get. And you want to enjoy what you're smoking. Granted, there's people that are used to smoking super strong cigars, not mild cigars, but the amount of flavor that our cigars pack, even our mildest cigar, you still be able to enjoy at any time of the day. So, how do we achieve this as a company? We kept it simple. Simple in packaging, simple in our blending, and simple in our portfolio. We have a very short portfolio, and we have 5 core blends, and each core blend has their own core filler blend. Serena, which is a mild to medium cigar. For me, it's a perfect beginner cigar or a perfect morning cigar with a cup of coffee. Very clean smoke, very creamy, a lot of sweetness to it. You can smoke it in the morning. And also what I love to do is smoke it at night as a nightcap cigar because it's so clean. You still get flavor, but it's not going to give you that nicotine high, so you'll be able to go to sleep a little bit early with a clean palate. For me, it's our most versatile cigar. Granted, you will not get as much flavor as you will from a stronger cigar. You're always going to enjoy the flavor of that cigar. Strength-wise goes to Renacer. Renacer is our first cigar, our first launch. And Renacer in English or in Spanish means rebirth. So it was the rebirth of 2 things. The rebirth of this company, Matilde, revived it. It's a rebirth of Matilde, but at the same time, it was a rebirth of our family. As I said, before we were corporate, we were making millions of cigars, managing thousands of employees, and then my dad went from that to working, a couple of people, smaller quantities. You can work with different types of tobaccos because it's a rebirth at that point as well, right? Renacer was meant to be medium in strength, full in flavor. Because it was our first release, we wanted to make sure it was a cigar you can smoke across the board, but it wasn't a cigar that was going to be overpowered by anything else. So you can smoke it after a big meal. You can smoke it after a very strong cigar. You can smoke it with a big drink. It's packed with flavor. It's got beautiful, I like to say that dark Dominican coffee, sweetness, bitterness to it. Just beautiful, beautiful sweetness to that cigar. Cuadrada. Cuadrada means square. Cuadrada is our box press line. And for me, it's our most balanced cigar. It's got a beautiful H2000 wrapper seed from Ecuador. It has an olor binder, Dominican and Nicaraguan in the fillers. It's a cigar that's not overly sweet, not overly peppery, just doesn't have any spikes. Just very round in flavors. You know what? When I call it meaty. When you smoke that fills you feel like there's something on you. Have that flavor and just keeps on lingering. That's what you get with a Cuadrada. It's a beautiful cigar, medium plus in strength, just great flavors towards it. Our Oscura is our strongest offering, and that would be medium plus, a little bit bolder, more pepper, and then that pepper dissipates and goes to a little bit more natural sweetness with a cigar. That's our core, and we kept our core very simple and very clean. So now we work with our core in Tabacalera, Palma. We started with our own manufacturing facility in La Romana. We quickly found out that in order to be consistent year after year after year after year, we had to sacrifice a little bit. We found Hochi. We knew Hochi for a long time. He's one of the largest tobacco growers in the
You say
Dominican Republic.
Hochi Blanco?
Yes, sir, Hochi Blanco.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that everybody knew. That's
Yeah,
for those of you that don't know the name Hochi Blanco, it's Jose Blanco. There's a relation to Jose Blanco, to brother, right?
cousins. The cousins.
Cousins,
Cousins.
cousins.
Fun fact: there's like 11 Jose Blancos in this family.
That's why I wanted to make sure we were talking about the same Blanco family to begin with.
So that helps. Working with Hochi, he's a company. His company was founded in 1936. He's I think his fourth generation. His kids are fifth generation. So there's a wealth of knowledge. His manufacturers are there. Are beautiful cigar makers and rollers. But we have tobacco. We have aged tobacco, which we know where it's coming from, and that allows us to keep consistent year after year after year after year, which I believe is the hardest thing to do in the cigar industry with cigars. It's very easy to blend a cigar. I mean, great cigar, you can, it comes out. Now, the hard work is to keep that cigar consistent year after year after year. That's where all the tobacco comes in. That's where the reblending comes. That's where all this comes in. The background work that people don't see. And working
That's
with a
also
company
the
like
upfront. Real quick, that's also the upfront money that a lot of people don't comprehend, because you're buying crops. If you have a cigar that hits, you're buying crops a couple of years in advance just to make sure that you can even secure that tobacco, or else it's a limited run.
That's correct. You know, I always say when people say, how old are your cigars? I'm like, they're at least 3 or 4 years old. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, because we're working with tobacco that's 2 to 3 years. Then we've aged the cigar, we roll the cigars, then we age it for another 3 to 6 months. So once you have the tobacco that's been, cropped that has 3 years, and then you age it a little bit more, it ends up being, anywhere between 3 to 4 years. The tobacco that you're using and the cigar that you're smoking are tobaccos that are very old. And that's how you keep consistency. That's how you keep a clean smoke. And that's what you're able to say, okay, I'm going to have this cigar. I'm going to make it year after year after year after year. And it's something that, as you said, Ryan, people don't really see that. I remember I distribute my cigars in Canada, Berger. Our distribution partner asked to do something special, limited release, because Canada, their prices are, stupid expensive. A cigar that's $10 in the States is about, 30, 40, $50 in Canada. And obviously you can ship from States to Canada.
Maybe.
So we created this. Yeah, maybe. But you know what? Think about it. I can order the same box 4 times before it's the same price as Canada. So you can
I know it's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, buddies were telling me that like factory smokes were going for like $18. Factory smokes.
It's just ridiculous. And when I went there the first time, you have to see it to believe it, right? So they say, okay, how can I help you? I've always seen this this industry. I always say it's kind of a threesome, right? It's me, the manufacturer, our distributor or our broker, and the cigar shop. So everybody has to work together to make sure you, the consumers, are happy, right? It all has to come together. So they say, you know what? We can make a limited cigar just for Canada where there's no comparison. So we decided to do in 2018 a limited release. It was a one-shot deal. I just went fucking crazy. I went looking for the oldest tobacco there was in the fucking small packs. You had 1 or 2 bales. I just used everything I could because I knew it wasn't going to come out again. So it ended up being a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful blend. So this year we're meeting at Intertabac. Intertabac, for those that don't know, is a trade fair in Germany, and it's a full-on tobacco trade fair which includes cigars. And we go often for international relations. So that's where you meet all your international distributors and all that. And they were like, "So can we repeat the Canada Exclusivo?" I'm like, I can definitely make the same blend, but it's going to be very different to what you received because the tobaccos were so old, everything was so aged. It might be better, it might be a little bit stronger, but it's not going to be the same because of the types of tobaccos that we use. Because when we made that cigar, I wasn't expecting to redo it. That's one of the things that's very, very important when you are creating a blend. First of all, is it limited, or it's going to be part of your core production? Because if it's limited, you do whatever the fuck you want, right? But if it's part of your core production, you're going to say, I'm going to use this tobacco. Can I find it next year? Or if there's enough to do it. Those are kind of things you keep on going. That's where
So,
Tabacalera Parma comes in.
so let me ask you a question on exactly what you just said. Because again, I don't think that a lot of people really understand that limited run isn't always mean limited tobacco. Meaning that tobacco might be gotten again. How many limited runs have we seen that have been brought back year after year after year after year after year? Okay. The word limited run is a marketing thing, in my opinion, sometimes in all industries, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
heck, even Taco Bell brings back the tostada every now and then for a limited run. You know what I mean? Um, so kind of explain a little bit more what goes into the understanding of, because your family and you and I talked, your family is very prolific inside tobacco world. You, for a very long time before Matilde, and so you're actually like the perfect person to ask this question to. So kind of walk through what's the difficulty and how are you even able to know if you're able to get X tobacco year 1, 2, 3, 4 and continuously on versus a one and done, because there's really no guarantees in the sense that next year the crop might burn, the crop might be bugged. So what goes through your choosing of fields that you do for long-term core lines? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so basically there's different things. When you're working with something that is core, you first of all have to make sure that your supplier is it's a core tobacco that they produce a year after year after. Like for example, 98 they're always going to produce. Piloto is always going to produce. So the things that it's in their rotation, as it's in our rotation, it's in the rotation where they're produced. That's one thing. So you got to make sure you have good tobacco suppliers. In our case, Pochi, as I said, is one of the largest tobacco growers, so I know what he's producing every single time. So I don't grow tobacco, but the people that we work with, I know what they grow, and they've been growing it for many, many years. So that's how you get your consistency when it comes to the tobacco. At the
So
same time,
when you go to make a purchase and you go to Hochi and you Hochi and you say, "Hey, I want this." Are you buying 5 years worth of tobacco?
no, no. In my case, I work with Hochi because I work with his tobacco. So the tobacco that I work with is already aged. It's already there. I know where it's coming from because I manufacture in Tabacalera Palma. So, for example, for me, it makes no sense to manufacture cigars with tobacco outside of Hochi's factory at that point. Now, if we go, let's say I work with Hochi with our core lines, but I also work with Tabacalera La Isla, my good friend also Fernandez, with our limited lines. And I'm going to explain what limited for us means. There's limited editions. For me, a limited edition is a cigar that we produce once and it's not going to come back again. That's a limited, it's a one-time deal. So I'll do a great example. For my dad's 40th year in the industry, we created a cigar, 40 ring gauge, 40 box count for 40 years. It was a 40 by 7 Renacer. Second production we did a production of about 25,000 cigars. We produced them, and whatever's out there, it's out there. They tell me, "Are you going to do another Lancero?" And I said, "I'm not doing it again," because I was limited to commemorate my dad. Then we have other projects which I work with Ostos, and it's what I call limited exposure. And I say limited exposure because it's a blend that's produced in limited quantities once a year.
I like that. Limited
So once a year, you're able to get our limited exposure number one in summer or a limited exposure number two in winter. What's out there is out there. Once they're gone, they'll come back next year. You as a consumer know that you'll be able to buy it next year. I never say it's a limited edition. It just comes back and it's the same blend we use, we manufacture, age from 6 to 8 months, and then we release. But whatever's in the market is what's in the market. That for me is what I call our limited exposure series. So it's not a limited edition. When I say limited edition, it's something that's going to come out and never come back. When it's in the limited,
that makes sense.
Yeah, when it's a limited exposure, it's something that's produced. I say it's limited in production, but not in time, because it comes back everywhere, but just one batch production.
So then, how are you buying tobacco for your run? What I mean is, obviously, if you have a cigar uses 5-year tobacco, you can't buy 5 years worth of tobacco because now that's 10-year age tobacco at the end. Now that costs more. So are you making deals with people where you go, okay, every year I need X amount of this tobacco every single year, year over year, so that way it's always at that 5-year mark, and essentially you're just picking up the stuff coming up behind it?
If I were to be buying tobacco, that's how it's done. So what you do is you buy the crop. So let's say if I have, sorry, Alexa was talking to me. I got confused. So what happens is, let's say if the tobaccos that I use are 3 years old, right? So you have to have a rotation of tobacco that's 3 years old, and you use, your last year. So you contract your growers to do the same amount of also or more, depending on how you're growing, for the year. So you replace year after year after year after year. So that's something that when you have a boom, gets distorted. Like, for example, one of the cool things of working with Pochi is that he has a lot of tobacco. It's not tobacco that's going to consume like in a boom, right? It's still there, it's still aged. But if you go to a smaller company or a company that doesn't have that much stock, if there's a boom, you increase your production, right? But then you consume all the tobacco that you're using. So then you're not using tobacco that's 3, 4, 5 years old. You're using tobacco that's from the last crop or a year old. And that's where things get in. But don't get me wrong. You can blend with tobacco that's 2 years old. You can blend with tobacco that's 2 years old. You just have to make sure you get the right blend and make sure it goes to the same profile. One of the things that making cigars and making sure your cigar is consistent is about blending, right? You're never going to get a cigar that is 100% the same. It's impossible. Not even in the same production, not the same day, because it's a handmade product. I always say you take the best artist in the world, the best painter in the world. You give him 2 canvases. You say, I want you to paint a picture of this Ryan's beautiful face. Let's get that beautiful face, that bald face with fucking beard. I want to get that there, right?
Oh God,
So
you are evil.
He paints this fucking beautiful, beautiful Ryan, right? And I say, okay, so I want you to repeat that same painting on this canvas. Far, far, far away, it's going to look the same. It's going to be identical. But when you go forward, you look into the nuances, when you look at the strokes, there's going to be differences. But you're going to have the same experience when you look at it from far away. So that's what making a cigar is. That's what creating a cigar. That's what keeping the cigar consistent.
I really like that explanation.
Well, thank you.
That's a solid explanation. Because the whole ability is to not necessarily make it like identically up close. Oh, maybe there's a little scuff on the wrapper here, but the last one wasn't. But as long as it smokes the same, tastes the same, feels the same, it's the same paint.
That's correct.
I love that. I love that.
The cigar. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said I love that. Okay. I think it's great.
The cigar has to remind you of the last cigar you smoked. If you take
Yeah.
my Renacer from 2014 that we launched, and we take my Renacer from today, it's going to be a separation of flavors and also because we work with natural product. There's years where it's a dry season. There are years where it's a wet season. You just play around to make sure you get that same profile. So that might be using a tobacco that's a little bit younger. That might be using tobacco that's a little bit older. That might be aging the final product a little bit more. So you smoke, you try, you reblend, you smoke it, and once the cigar is ready, you pack and you ship. But to be able to keep your tobacco stock consistent, you say you want to use tobacco that's 3 years, you have to keep that stock rotating. And if your production is increasing, you have to buy more and more and more and more. And as you were saying, that is a huge capital investment, which people don't see behind it. We were talking about it. I mean,
Yeah.
having tobacco, we had access to all kinds of tobacco when we started the factory, but it really very, 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 very fast came along. It was like, we can have access to tobacco, but if we want aged tobacco, we can't work within our own facilities. It's impossible. You have to age it. You can't cheat time. And
No.
that's where our move with Boji came in.
No, and just like, that was Enrique pre-show. May I share the question that you ask people when
Yeah,
they
of
say I
course.
want to? Okay. So pre-show, Enrique said, "Hey, I make it really simple when somebody says, because we both agreed on maybe about 10% of the brands that ever existed became something. Maybe even less as far as totality, but maybe about 90% of the brands that are ever created in the cigar world just don't exist anymore. And one of the first things that he asks people is, what's your budget? If you only got X amount, you're only going to have this type of cigar. You're not going to have the world open up to you. And I don't think a lot of people understand that because you had said this pre-show, people have a preconceived notion of what the cost of a cigar is, and if I sell X, it costs me X, but they don't take into consideration all the regulation around it. And the lawyers, my God, the lawyers are the only ones that ever win.
They always win. Lawyers always win. Lawyers love a good fight, a good
even when
debate, a good
you
anything.
even when you lose, they win.
Of course, of course. And I love my lawyers. I love them. One of my lawyers is my cousin, but he sends me that bill every time I talk to him. It is what it is. We're either having drinks as cousins or we're doing some business. They always win, doesn't matter what happens. But it is true. I mean, a lot of people look at the cigar industry and say, oh, I can buy a cigar at a factory for X price, and they're at the store at X price. That's a huge margin. People don't see the cost that goes behind the marketing, the travel, keeping inventory, being able to get that rotation, getting that reorder from the store, having the brokers, importing taxes, S chips, all the things that goes behind. People don't see it. And we started talking about this because I was telling Ryan that I've had friends that sit down with me and say, I would love to set up a cigar company. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll fucking help you. I come from my dad is he was a firm believer of teamwork. He was a firm believer of helping. If he could help, he would. And I was raised like that. My dad did so much working at Tabacalera for his employees, for suppliers, for everybody. And if he could, he would help. And that's something I learned from him. If you can, do it because it doesn't cost you anything and it helps somebody else. And that's always been my way of being. And I'm just, sometimes, they even, como dice, dicen te pisotean. They step all over you because you're so nice, because you help and help and help. I was like, you're too nice. Stop helping so much. But it's our personalities. My personality is how I was raised. So if somebody comes in and says, oh, I want to set up a cigar company. I'm like, yeah, fuck. I don't want you to make the same mistakes I made. Never. I mean, why would you? So I sit down with them and I say, okay, what's your budget? Hey, what are you looking for? What are the markets? And yes, a few simple questions, and they very quickly find out, oh shit, I'm not ready. Let me back out. Let me do this. Because honestly, you don't want anybody to fail. I mean, you're not even, well, your worst enemy maybe, but it's something that you like, you don't want anybody to fail. So I'm always open to talking to people and say, okay, let's do this, or how can I help you, or whatever we need to do. And that conversation came through. Usually I say, the first thing I say, what's your budget? And sometimes the budgets are a lot lower than they're supposed to be. Like, dude, just I'll stop you right there. You want to make a cigar production you can for yourself and for your friends. That's great. Or focus in your country. Things I told my friends in the Dominican Republic: if you have a small budget, make it in the Dominican Republic, and then after that, whatever money you get, you take it to wherever you want to take it. It's a tough industry. I've always said there's easier ways to make money, but not as fun as this. This industry is beautiful. There's a lot of camaraderie. It's a cliche, but really, if you're traveling, you have a cigar, you go to a cigar shop, you're bound to hit a conversation with somebody simply by asking, "What are you smoking?" It's as simple as that. And I travel a lot, and that's how I do it. Like, what are you smoking? That's that. And the thing I love is, let's say me and Ryan meet at a cigar shop. Let's talk about, we meet at the cable. We met at Smoke In. Let's talk about the sponsors. Met at Smoke In, start talking, and I have a $30 cigar in my pocket, and Ryan's got a $10 cigar in his pocket. We start talking about palettes, about what I like, what he likes, about this cigar, about Matilde. Everything was Matilde, but those two cigars, right? And I was like, well, you know what? I have this cigar. This is a limited edition that we make. It's not made anymore. I think you're going to do it here, smoking. And I just gave Ryan a $30 cigar. Like, this is my favorite cigar, and he just gave me a $10 cigar. Price does not really matter at that point. It's about enjoying and sharing that passion that we have for smoking. And that's the coolest thing you get in the cigar industry. Mm-hmm. And it's a cliche, but it's fucking true. It's beautiful. There's always
cigars. Always. But cigars are the ultimate equalizer.
No.
I've sat next to people that my bank account, whatever's in my bank account, is what they spend in a day on themselves for their daily life. And we're literally smoking the exact same cigar. And that's all that matters. There's no pissing contest. It's, yes, you will get the I only smoke these types of people, or the guy that likes to bring up the wrong thing at the wrong time when you're having a great cigar. It just ruins the experience. Yes, you will get those. But vast majority of the time, nobody's a band watcher. Everybody just, what are you smoking? What are you smoking? You like it? Oh, maybe I'll try it. Here's what I'm smoking. Hey, come down. I got some of this. Here, have a drink. Pull a glass. Like, it really is. I'm a huge believer that the world would be better off if maybe government mandatorily made people smoke cigars at like family functions and stuff. Because a cigar, unlike a cigarette, I consider like a cigarette to be like a race car, right? It's like, because you're just like cold and you want to go inside. You don't really want to smoke it, but your body's like, do it. Trust me, I was a cigarette smoker for 20 years. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly. And cigars it forces you to actually take a breath in life. They force you to slow down because you're going to have a terrible experience, and if it takes an hour to smoke a very short Robusto, then damn it, that's going to be one of the best hours of your day. If it takes you 3 hours to smoke a Churchill, then all that means is that you're super enjoying it, letting it go out, relight it, having fun, talking. Like, this is what cigars do for literally everybody that I know. That my wife and I have had some of our best conversations of our marriage, of our relationship, with a cigar and a drink. Like, she smokes them too. It's just, I don't know. I'm passionate about it because for me, it forces me to back up. It forces me to slow down, forces me to live in the moment, to think about the cigar, to think about what I'm doing, not just be off in la la land in my head. I don't know. Does that make sense?
100%. 100%. I always say, and I smoke cigars on various occasions. I have cigars that just a puff, just sit down and puff cigars, and then you have cigars that take them in. Those cigars that take them in, are those cigars you sit down, you relax, have a drink, and just take them in and really, 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 really just enjoy them. Just are there with it. I always say about slowing down. I tell my friends, every cigar you smoke gives you 10 minutes of life. What the fuck do you mean? Like, you know what? The biggest killer in the world is stress. Every cigar you smoke is an hour of no stress, and that would translate to 10 minutes of your life in your life. If you smoke a cigar a day, you'll age a little bit less. You'll have less stress, and that's what cigars all about. It's just about taking it in, enjoying it, sharing with people. I love sharing cigars with people. I'm very, and my friends say that I'm extremely cheap. Okay, I frugal, I would say that I fall down
I'm
and
cheap.
I can break the floor with my elbows. That's what they say in Dominican Republic. Because they tell me, "Coño, you know what? Hey, you make cigars. Give me a cigar." Like fuck you. You make you have a meat processing plant or you build it. You don't sell me. You don't give me a fucking apartment. You give, but I will give you any cigar in my humidor at any point. If you come to my office, come to my house, and you're gonna share with me. So if you come to my office, you come to my house, I'll be smoking a new blend. I have something that's very limited. I'm like, yeah, you just go into my humor. Let's smoke a cigar. Let's enjoy it. Because I believe in sharing and I believe in enjoying that moment of smoking a cigar. Not giving it away. Fuck that shit. Sharing with somebody, yes. I do believe 100% of that. And I have no, how do you think Enrique Seijas got so beautiful? I am very good. Thank you so much. That's my wife.
But no,
Pero,
you're right. And about the 10 minutes of life, like, the crazy thing about it is it's said as kind of a joke, right? But look at all I say the fathers of cigars. Look at Padron, like almost 100 years old. You've got George Burns, 100 years old, smoked according to him 15 to 20 cigars a day. Like you have, and then you have the people that smoke cigarettes that get lung cancer at 55 or 65 or whatever. But you do see the cigar industry, the fathers, the grandfathers are still around while the
well,
grandson takes the business, you know?
and they're
Like,
still around and kicking and working.
yeah, and like vibrant. They're not just they're not like a Roomba, you know? And
Well,
it's incredible.
well, if you think about it, the cigar is all about being patient and taking time, right? It takes time to grow the leaf. It takes 6 weeks to cure the leaf. It takes 3 to 6 to 8 months to ferment. Then after you ferment, you have to put it in your bales, and then it takes 1 2 years to age, right? Then after that, you have to create the blend, you manufacture, then you age again. So it's all time. You have to be very patient to create a cigar, to keep on in the cigar industry. And I believe, I mean, being patient, it reduces your stress at some point, I believe, right? Or it shows you, no, you can't. I mean, it doesn't happen at that point. You have to wait the next year because you have to wait for the crop. So all this stuff, all this patience, I think it adds on to these old guys, which were 100% more passionate than the young guys. Because now you're thinking about the social media. Now you're thinking about the sales. Now you're thinking about the traveling. Think about our forefathers, uh, grandfathers, great grandfathers. It was all about the tobacco in the factory and selling the cigars. Well, okay, we did that, right? But they were a lot calmer. Now it's a lot faster, a lot quicker, a lot everything, right? So it's always about time. It's always about patience. And creating a brand is also about patience. I mean, bringing a brand like from zero to huge success, it takes time and patience and a lot of sacrifice and grit. So you really have to love what you do for starters and be patient to be able to get it. And I think that lowers your stress levels at some point because it forces you to just be a little bit more zen than other people, other industries. Compare fucking making cigars to being at Wall Street. It's impossible.
No,
So
my ADD would be able. I mean, I just gonna be honest with you. I don't. I struggle with like. I buy a gift for my wife 3 months before her birthday. And I'm like, I just want to give it to you now. Like, I don't want to wait. Like I'm terrible when it comes to stuff like that. Um, so let's talk a little bit about your patience level because you are growing a business that really is not an easy business to grow. In fact, when you listen to most people in the industry, they say the quickest way to be a millionaire is to start at 2 million, you know?
Correct.
So talk about, all right, we're going to start Matilde. What did you do next? What are your next steps to get this brand in the US? Because the US is the market that, reality, the US is the market you want to be in for cigars, not so much the European market. Yes, that's big. There's countries, there's pockets, but cigars are super, super expensive over there, and it is much more considered an upper class thing oftentimes. And in the US, there's cigars low enough to where everybody can smoke it. Okay. So, what are your next steps then once you formed Matilde?
Create a blend, which took about 2 years to create our first blend, and I said probably started
Okay, so
2012. We
the
went 2012.
Matilde came first, then the blend
The brand.
or
So
the brand.
you start and you say a brand. So we decided to revive our brand, Dominican Republic, something from old brand with Dominican roots, and create it from scratch. So we created the branding. At the same time, you start working with the blend. Took us about 2 years to create the blend, and at that point, you start, creating your structure in the states. If you have distribution structure, having your broker network, and just starting creating those people that are going to be selling your cigars in the states.
Now, at
So
this
I think,
point, before you did anything, you already have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars invested before your cigar ever came out.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
you buy tobacco, you create the blend, you do the packaging, so you're creating structure in the states. One of the things that we did have is that we had a lot of open doors because of my dad, so it was a lot easier to introduce cigars into shops, right? But one of the things that was there's always learning curves, right? For us, the biggest learning curve was that we came from manufacturing. My dad wasn't a marketer; he was a manufacturer. So
Yeah.
getting to know the U.S. market better and better and how it worked, it took us a little bit of time. So that was an interesting learning curve for us. Manufacturing the cigar was easy. I mean, it's amazing how my dad could create blends and just say, oh, I don't like it still, but it was a great blend still, right? And then introducing the cigar into the market. You have your structure, you have your broker structure. Now you introduce, and that is hard, hard, hard work. If you want to go national, I was telling you, I was traveling 2 to 3 weeks out of the month. Just out there with every broker, just doing that, just traveling, introducing, and then getting people to know the brand. Because one of the things that people don't get is that it doesn't really matter if the cigar is at the shop. If people don't know the brand, they're not going to buy it. So you have two ways to do it. You have to invest a shit ton of money into marketing, or you have to travel a lot. So it's either money or time, right? In our case, we had a lot of time. So I traveled, I did tasting events, I did introductions. You consolidate relationships with your tobacconists, you consolidate relationship with the people that sell and with consumers. I call our tobacconists and consumers champions, right? So in every store, you want to be able to find one, two, or three champions that would promote your product where you are when you're not there. And that's how you keep it moving. And until you get those champions, you get the ball rolling in a shop, you're still not consolidated. So you have to consolidate yourself not in the United States completely. You have to figure out how to consolidate yourself in each shop. And that's what takes the brand to the next level. What it goes going on and on, you start building it and building it. And that's been taking maybe 10 years and still going. I still travel. Everybody travels if you think about it. You still keep on going and going and going. Here's another thing. As you're doing that, you have to be thinking about developing the next product. And it's an ongoing cycle. It's a never stopping cycle.
Yeah, no, and then you get the limited runs because you always get the guy like me that goes, I want a limited run Lancero, and Lanceros don't sell, and I know the only way I'm going to get them really is if they're limited runs. So
One,
Bruce asks a question here. He says the website says Matilde Cigars was started 1876.
yes, Bruce, that's a good question. So Matilde Cigars was founded originally by Simeon Mencias in 1876. It was revived by my family in 2014 with its first launch. Matilde was originally founded in Santiago. Owner was Simeon Mencia, and the brand actually died about 1917. So it's not, let's say, like La Aurora. La Aurora is a brand that was founded in 1903 and was ongoing brand, the same family, but up until today with Guillermo Leon now running it, right? Or being the owner of it. In this case, it was a brand that we revived as a way to pay homage to the Dominican Republic. We wanted to have something that had Dominican roots and revive it. So for our Matilde, it's actually more for us than our family wanted to pay homage. For my mother's in. Look at that. Carmen Seijas de Soto. Hey, it's a family. It's a
I
family
miss
endeavor.
Seijas.
So for us, it's more as a family wanted to pay homage to the country. For the market, Matilde is a brand new brand in 2014. It was something that was new for the market. It wasn't an ongoing brand. Does that make sense, Bruce?
It was never a brand that existed outside the DR.
No. Well, it was exported, but just died in 1917. So it died 100 years before we revived it.
So as you bring this cigar back inside the DR, did you start it all selling this in the DR? Like, was this released? Like, can you buy this in shops at the DR in the DR? I don't know how I don't know how cigar shops work in the DR. I imagine thousands of cigars with thousands of brands that everybody had. I just imagine like the biggest humidors ever.
No, totally different. If you think about it, we are cigar country. We're the largest tobacco producing country in the world. That's one. But we do it for export. If you think about it, well, when I started smoking, people used to look at me like, "What the fuck is this kid doing smoking cigars?" It was for rich people, for old guys. And I was a fucking 18-year-old, 19-year-old smoking a cigar. Like, what the fuck is going on? Now that this has changed in the Dominican Republic, there's a lot more cigar lounges, compared to when I started smoking. So there's a lot more consumers, and the consumers that are here are pretty devout consumers. But it's middle upper class. If you think about it, our minimum wage in the Dominican Republic is very low. We're a developing country. So a cigar that's a $5, $10 cigar is a very big proportion of that wage. So it's not for the masses. And that's what's always been a middle upper class cigar, which it tells us a lot of things about the Dominican Republic. First of all, cigar consumption has increased, hence our economy is moving forward in the positive direction. At the same time, cigars are being smoked more in the Dominican Republic. Before, 10, 15 years back, I would say about 95% of cigar sales were travel retail. When I say tourism, because we're known for what? For rum, our beaches, and cigars. So he came out to the Dominican Republic, he went to a resort, and we used to buy, a Monte, a Romeo, a Turo Fuente, not because you smoked, but because you knew Ryan that smoked and you were in the Dominican Republic. So you brought something from the Dominican Republic to Ryan. So it was travel retail. Now you get a lot more consumers. An interesting fact about the Dominican Republic is that cigars in the Dominican Republic are usually 20 to 25% more expensive in the Dominican Republic than they are in the United States. Why? Most factories in the Dominican Republic are in trade-free zones. So we're really not produced tax-wise in the Dominican Republic. So in order to sell them in the Dominican Republic, you have to pay taxes to import and sale, and then our VAT is 18%. So it usually ends up being a price about 20 to 25% more if you have a distributor in the middle. The Dominican Republic was not my first market. It was not my second market. It was not my third market. It was not my fourth market. It was my fifth. It was my sixth market. Why?
Wow.
Because my dad hated the fact that the cigars that he manufactured were more expensive in our country than they were in other countries. So what did we end up doing? We took our time, and I set up my own my own distribution company in the Dominican Republic. Not to make more money. What I do is that part of that tax I eat up. So I make sure that our cigars are MSRP in our shops in the Dominican Republic because, as I said, we revived the brand that's Dominican. We use 80% Dominican tobacco. We are Dominican. We manufacture our cigars in the Dominican Republic. So I'm a firm believer that Dominican smokers have to be able to smoke our cigars at a price which is lower or same price as the United States. So what we do is that we eat up a lot of taxes. We reduce our margins as a distribution company, and it allows the stores to offer our consumers or our smokers Matilde at MSRP or MSRP plus the tax, depending on the store. That's why Matilde was not firstly sold in the Dominican Republic, because we wanted to create that structure.
Yeah, it's like the Henry Ford idea of he wanted to make a car that all of his employees could drive. Because what's the point of having employees work on a car they can never afford?
Exactly. The other thing that we do, sorry, is that
please.
anything that we release, doesn't matter what country it's for, what exclusivity it's for, there's always going to be some left for Dominican Republic. Our Canada exclusive is here in Dominican Republic. Anything we had a Edición Limitada America, which is an exclusive for a store. It's sold here in the Dominican Republic at X amount of quantities. So Dominican consumers can try and will smoke any Matilde that I produce at some point. Obviously, if I do an exclusive for Canada, I first sell it in Canada, and a few months later, I import a little bit to the Dominican Republic for the Dominican market.
So I, as a tourist, go down to the DR, stumble across your factory. Can I go in, do a tour? Obviously, I'm sure you would. Maybe you would give me a cigar while I'm on the tour to enjoy the tour. And then at the end, I could go, I want a box of these cigars. Can I buy that box from the factory, or do you have to send me to a shop to buy that box?
Send it to a shop. Basically, what happens is that there are factory tours that do have stores which are meant for that. But because we're at free zones, like Tabacalera Palma is in the free zone, La Isa is in the free zone, so you don't have that capability. Actually, you can't really take any box or any cigar out of the factory without paying those taxes and doing the export documents. You do. I mean, obviously, you want to take 3 or 4, 5, 10 boxes. I put it in my car. You want it to get checked, but you're really doing it's kind of a contraband at the end of the game, right? So you're doing a small quantity. Like if I'm traveling to the States and I need to take 10 boxes of samples, I'll just put it in my car and I'll leave with it. But for sales, it's different because you're not supposed to do it, right? We usually direct you to a shop. But let's say if you come in down Ryan and we do a tour, obviously, you'll able to get those cigars, but it's not a common practice because if the factory doesn't have an actual factory tour with a shop, it's not built to do that. It's built for export. For example, La Aurora has a factory tour and has a shop, but they're built for that and their structure's built for that.
See, I just assumed it was, and again, my naivete, I just assumed in a place like the DR, it was just sell it. Like, yeah, you got taxes on there, but I guess I didn't understand the trade free areas and that limitations is there, because here I could pay no taxes if I'm leaving the country. So I just assumed if somebody was taking a tour and they bought a box from you, as they left the country, they would have to claim that and pay the taxes themselves.
So like in hotels and stuff like that, you have what you call you have stores that are free zone stores.
Yeah, duty
so they don't
free.
charge it. Duty free stores, but you also have them at the hotels and you don't pay taxes there, so you can get the cigars usually for a cheaper price. But because it's a tourism area, there's always a little bit of margin up there, right? You gotta pay that. You gotta pay that real estate, right? It's all about real estate. But one thing that you can do in the Dominican Republic, you can come down and set up a manufacturing facility or a store. There is no license or anything like that. So I can, set up a place, set up a store, and that you can do. But it's a limited. There's a limited public for smoking cigars because of the cost of cigars. In the States, a $10, $10, it's $10 an hour is a minimum wage, or it's not even minimum wage in some places, right? The Dominican Republic, $10 is a lot of money. So if you think about it, you smoke a $10 cigar, about that's money here.
Yeah, your internet's good. Okay, there we go. So I don't know this question, Mike. I'm sure Enrique does. Do duty free, tax free zones incorporate non cigar businesses as well?
Yeah, of course. When it comes to cigars, I believe we're the second or third largest export production in the Dominican Republic when it comes to the trade zones. But yeah, you have textiles, you have customer service, like you have your call centers, retail centers, everything. So anything. So free zones were created to create employment. So companies from outside, from here in the Dominican Republic, that just want to export and want to take advantage of labor in the Dominican Republic, set up and they're called operadoras. So they're big lots with different buildings, and you rent one of those buildings. You set up as a tax free, and you have manufacturing, you have service. So you have anywhere from tobacco processing to the tobacco to gold, to paintbrush factories, anything that's not meant to be sold in the Dominican Republic, you can do it. It's come to a point actually that when this concept was created, you couldn't import anything to the Dominican Republic. Things had to go and then come back, and then there was a
Really?
adjustment. Yeah. So literally,
Wow.
if you wanted to buy cigars when before the law was adjusted, you had to send them to the states and bring them back.
That
Now
makes it
with
very
the
expensive.
now with the adjustment, initially you could import about 20% of your production, and now you can do about 100% of your production, as long as you're paying the taxes to bring them back in. But they're meant to create jobs in the Dominican Republic, so they have all the tax incentives for the corporations, for the factories, to be able to ship out.
So as you're starting this, obviously you have an unbelievable wealth of knowledge in your father, and in Hoche. Who else? I'm really big on one, showing people that the more you think you know everything, the less you actually know about anything. Um, the only reason why I consider myself successful is because I have failed. Failure and what you do from that. It's kind of the whole I fell off the bike, but I got back on
You learn.
concept. It's what you do when you fail that develops your integrity, your character, who you are as a person, as a father. My gosh, how many times have you failed as a father just to kind of pick yourself back up and go, what the heck did I just do? And fortunately, that's, our friend used to say that, that's why babies don't remember the first 3 years, is because the good Lord allowed them to not held the first 3 years against their parents.
Because they've been dropped so many times.
Exactly. So as you're going through, again, I know your father's probably your largest mentor, your biggest confidant and person you could find in the most as far as business. But who else have you surrounded yourself with inside this world that has kind of given you that advice? And when did you realize you actually needed the advice? What brought you to that understanding?
Remember what when I told you that my dad was always about the people and teamwork?
Hmm.
I learned that from him, so I've always heeded advice from other people. Sometimes I didn't take the advice, but I always heeded from it. So it's a funny thing with me, Matilde, and my family. I started with my father. Unfortunately, my father was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and he's not able to work anymore. He's not able to participate anymore. He's got a little bit more advanced Parkinson's now. As my dad went more into the background, I depended more in trusting myself and Pochi and people at the factory and friends. And I just heed advice from anybody that I can. Like my uncle, called Javier Vargas, he's a huge mentor of mine. He's been great at business. He does has nothing to do with cigars, but cigars are business regardless.
Yeah.
So anytime I have an issue or a problem, I either talk to him, I talk to Bochi, even friends my own age that have their own businesses. I believe no stupid question. And if you have trust in somebody, if you're fucking up, yo, I am fucking up. Yes, I am fucking up. I have an issue. And if your ego is too big and you can't really admit that you have an issue and that you need help, you're basically gonna fail. So that's something I learned very quickly, and I was forced to learn because I had a huge mentor. My dad is a very quiet guy, but it's a guy that has a wealth of knowledge, not only in manufacturing, but in blending and human resources. I'm actually come from a family of politicians. So he was his politics in is in the old world. He did politics in his factory. I mean, he ran 5,000 people, never had a syndicate, never had people discomfort, disgruntled, right? So he knew how to manage people. He knew how to break down processes. He knew how to blend. And honestly, if talking honestly, what really brought me into the cigar industry, I love smoking cigars, and I grew up in a factory. I used to rollerblade in the factory in the weekends. It was a 50,000 square fucking meter factory with polished cement. It was the best place to rollerblade as a kid. I was 6, 7. I took my friends with rollerblade to be able played wheel within the tobaccos and all that kind of shit. So I loved it. I knew the process. I knew how beautiful. I knew the art of it. But what really attracted me to the industry was my father, the way he worked, the way he treated people, and the way him. It was him. I wanted to work with my father. Simple. Not with my father, but big. With my father, Jose Seijas, right? Because it's funny when I started traveling with Matilde. It's made by my father. What, papi? Is it your father? No, by my dad, Jose Seijas. So I started doing my dad, right? But that's what really brought me into this industry. I was passionate of learning everything that he had to teach me. Unfortunately, he was indisposed before he was able to teach me a third. So I quickly had to resort to other people, and I knew I had to resort to other people and other people's knowledges. So when I started working with Bochi, I resorted a lot to Bochi. Not only Bochi, Bochi has people in his factory that have been smoking and blending cigars for 20 years. So it doesn't matter if you're the president or if you're the fucking tobacco roller or if you're the tobacco plant manager. So they know more than I did at that point. They've been smoking cigars and doing this for more time. I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted this blend to be X, Y, Z. I knew I wanted to use a Bigelow tobacco. I knew I wanted to this. But then when we started blending, if I got told, Viejo, you know what, maybe we should switch this to about, yeah, let's give it a try. Fuck, why not? Funny story. With our limited exposure number 2, I was sitting down with Ostos and Elvis at the factory. Ostos and I are at the final stage of blending process, which, by the way, I also gave to Pochi. I'm like, Pochi, this been made at the other factory I work with. Can you give it a try? Tell me what you think. Because there are people that have a lot more experience than you do. And if you don't believe that, your ego's so big, you're going to fail. And Elvis, which is Ostos' right-hand guy, he knows my palate. He knows what I'm looking for. He's like, always quiet. Like, Enrique, give me a second. I'll be right back. Let me do this for you. And he comes in and he tweaks the blend below just a little bit. Like, try that. And fuck, that was it. So somebody else finalized that limited exposure blend. We had the whole process, but it wasn't me that finalized it. It was fucking Elvis. And yeah, and kudos to him and credit to him. Because you have to give credit to the people that do and help you. So to answer your question, I need advice for anybody that wants to give it to me. And I'll listen, I'll take it. Sometimes it's bad advice, sometimes it's good advice. But I have people like Hochi, I have people like my uncle. I have good retailer friends that tell me, Vero, mira, you might want to do this, you might want to do that. And I'll take advice from them. If I can, I'll implement it. Sometimes there are advices that will take too much money, I won't implement, or things that I can't do at that point. But it's not that I didn't listen, it's that it's in the back burner and I have to do it at some point. So that's how it goes. I mean, I don't believe that you should take credit for things that, help people. My dad always said, I'm the master blender, but he worked with 12 managers and it was a group that created the blend. He had the final say, but it's a group I have the final say. I say, no, this is the blend that I want. Okay, perfect. But if somebody else brings something better, I'll say, yeah, fuck it. I'll go with something better. No doubt about that. And I'll learn.
Oh yeah. I'm not a big sports guy. I liked the Bulls in the '90s. I'm from Chicago. Don't judge me on that. And I loved watching Jordan. And one of the things you see in watching Jordan had the biggest ego in basketball. If you pissed him off on the court, he'd make your life a living hell, but he was never afraid to pass the ball. And that's what made, I mean, he gave that shot, that championship winning shot to Steve Kerr. And Steve Kerr made his entire career off of that one shot. Why? Because Jordan realized that another person was in a better spot to give the better shot, and he passed the ball. And that's the same idea of being a good manager or being a master blender, is understanding that other people around you can offer the same style or equivalent value of advice. Doesn't have to be taken, but they can still be seen as contributing on that team. So how do you differentiate between, well, let me ask it to you differently. I love what you said, because I'm a firm believer. The only stupid question ever asked is the one that's not asked. Because if you honestly don't know the answer, it's never a stupid question. All right. Nobody should be ashamed of asking something they don't know. Define what a mentor is in your definition. No right or wrong. But if I was to ask you, Enrique, I'm looking for a mentor, who should I be looking for?
That's what you're looking for. But a mentor is somebody that obviously has a lot more experience than you do, has the best interest by heart for you, and it's somebody that you have to trust, for starters, somebody that you know knows more than you do, and somebody that has your best what do you call it, your best coño,
Best self.
my English went to shit. Your best interest.
Yes.
So, for example, a mentor for me, like in business and in life, my uncle, as I said, Javier Vargas, he's a huge mentor for me. I know what he tells me out of heart, even if I fucking hate it. And it's somebody that tells you what you hate.
Yes.
I mean, shit, he told me shit, and Hoshi has told me shit that I fucking hate. I mean, sometimes it breaks my whole world. Like, I have this plan, I'm going to go this way. He's like, dude, you think, I know you think that's great, but it's fucking stupid, because this and this and this is going to happen to you. And trust me, the times I've said, fuck it, I'm going to go forward, maybe not 3 this, but 2 of these stuff that happened to me. I'm like, shit, that motherfucker was right, because he has a lot more experience than I do. But you have to trust him. I mean, you have to trust people, not blindly, but he has to be somebody that you're affectionate about and you have a lot of confidence about, right? And it's something that guides you. It's like a guardian angel in business or in life, and that's what a mentor is at the end of the game. And I have a lot of them. I have they have older people, younger people. There are always people that can guide you, as long as you're able to admit that you need some sort of guidance, right? That's what a mentor is for me. And somebody you go to dinner or lunch once a week, whether you talk shit either about your family, about your business, what's going on, what's not going on, and they'll give you advice. Somebody that gives you advice, they just want you to do better.
Yeah.
That's a mentor.
Yeah. I love the fact there's no financial interest, your best interest only. And like that's exactly right. There's no wrong answer to it. I just like to kind of understand what people's understandings are as far as what they look for.
By the way,
Yeah, go ahead.
By the way, master blender is something I don't take very lightly. I'm not near to being a master blender. My dad was a full-on master blender. I just blend cigars and I work with it and I keep on going. I am the main blender for Matilde and I work with Matilde. But there's so much that goes. People take master blender so lightly. I mean, think about a guy like my dad. He fucking smoked cigars for 40 years constantly. It was a point when we started with Matilde. I used to tell my dad, Papi, mira, I want to do this and this blend. I want to put this tobacco together and do that. He'd be like, nah, not going to work. Like, what the fuck, bro? You haven't tried it. It's not going to work. But what the fuck? It's not going to work. These tobaccos don't go together. They don't mix together. Like, what? But they're great. I mean, no. So initially, I was like, fuck it. I'll take it. I won't do it. And it came to a point I was like, shit, I'm never going to fucking learn. Because he tells me it's wrong before I try it. So I started going and I said, you know what? Try this. And he, what is it? Smoke it. Oh, but tell me, no, smoke it. Once you smoke it, my dad always carries a little fucking dozens and dozens of notebooks. He used to dissect every cigar he smoked, burn, flavor, and not flavor like jasmine or fucking capulitos and apples. No, no, no. He looked for balance, for acidity. You know, he's always looking for the balance of a cigar.
Sure.
I'll tell you another story about my dad. So he, did all his notes, took everything. He's like, okay, it was a little bit off here. Okay, so okay. So I put this and this. Ah, that's a problem. So this piloto doesn't go well with this house. Oh, now I know I know what's breaking. And that's how I started learning. I did my own thing and then he told me no. And he showed me in that way. Because saying no, it doesn't work. No, it doesn't. It doesn't work. You tell me, oh, it doesn't work because this didn't work with that, and that's how I started doing it with my dad.
So you started to understand.
Yeah, started to understand, and knowing how to blend cigars it's trial and error. You start knowing what works with what doesn't work with what. What tobaccos blend together, and then you start getting your final blend quicker because you know what you're looking for, right? So I can use this tobacco, but not that tobacco because that won't work. You get to the beginning of the blend and you start tweaking, right? So master blender, there's few master blenders in this world. I mean, all the forefathers and grandfathers. I mean, the older generations, yes, but guy my age, I still have so much to to learn, so much to move forward, so much tobacco to try, and so much blending, and so much cigars to make. I'm just I'm just me at the point in the blender. Obviously, everybody's a blender, but master is mastery. I
Yeah.
think about
Your dad's forgotten more at this point in time in his life information about tobacco than you currently probably know. And that's what a master. I look at master blender. I actually don't like it when people use the term master blender when they gave that to themselves. Master blender is like a nickname. How the fuck are you going to make up your own nickname? Like if like nobody comes up all the nicknames that actually stuck in my life. And trust me, I tried to come on, I like this one a little bit better. Come on, no, this one actually fit. I look at Master Blender as the same exact thing. Master Blender is not it's not a title you take. It is a title that those around you just start calling.
you fucking earned it.
And every Master Blender always goes, I'm not, I'm not, I'm not. Well, it's not about you, it's about what those around you see you as, because it's a nickname.
You know
It's given.
what people say that they've made it is that when they say, "No, I haven't made it yet," those people that are very, very, they're still not there. They're still not there. That's what mastery is. When they believe they're still not there.
Yeah, because if you believe you're a master, listen, I've been in sales 20 years, I'm still learning shit. If you know everything about an industry, just get out of it because it's boring at that point. If you're not learning something new, then what's the point of even being in it?
Yep.
And so I completely agree with you. I think that's always very humbling when I get somebody on who I know. I'm like, hey, listen, I know you're a master blender, and they're like, I really just don't like that title. Like, you can use it. I won't ever refer to myself as that, but you can, because they understand that it's a title that's given. It's never a title that's like, oh, I hit 20 years in this, and I'm now no longer an apprentice. It's not like you're going through the unions where you're an apprentice and a journeyman, and then so on and so forth. Like you could literally be in the industry 30 years and never be considered by the industry a master blender.
It's not like getting your gold status, platinum status, and diamond status.
No. Like it's something that is heavily worked at, lived. I don't think you could be a master blender if you don't literally live cigars. Like your dad and even Hochi, you could give them a list of tobacco and they can go, nope, that won't work together with this, that won't work with this. They know going. It's the difference between a world class chef and a Michelin level chef.
Yep. That's how
Michelin
it is.
level chef can taste the meal before he's ever even cooked it.
It's gonna taste good.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. And a master blender can taste the cigar before it's ever even been done, and not only that, but visually see the burn, how it's going to roll, and and that literally is a lifetime of work.
Oh yeah. I mean, you have to. I mean, I always kidded. We always fucked it in our house saying that we're a family of three. So I'm the youngest. I have an older brother and an older sister. My sister's about 8 years my senior. We always fucked around saying that there's another kid. It was a factory. Because my dad was at that factory from fucking 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every single day. And don't get me started about the boom. When it was a boom, viejo, we used to go visit him at the factory because the factory worked 24/7. And he was the guy that said, if my people are working, I'm working. Simple as that. He was always there working. And I remember there's a story where one of the tobacco guys, one of the tobacco managers, it almost caused a divorce. Like, dude, go home, spend 2 days at your house, calm that shit out because they were spending so much time at the factory because it was a 24/7 operation at that time during the boom that it was causing issues in Kosovo. I remember my mom used to go 7 p.m. To see my dad at the factory. So that was the only time he'd seen. He had a big office, with a lounge and stuff like that. And then on Saturdays, I used to go play around, as I said, just play around the factory and do all that kind of stuff. That's the time. That's when we used to like do stuff with my dad when he was at work.
But your dad probably also never really considered it work to the extent that it was his life. You grew up with it not as my dad's work, but as my dad's life work. Like this is my dad. Like if you remove
Cigars,
this from this, it's not my dad. And
my
so it's
dad,
just different.
cigars, people, family, golf. Family was always up there. His people always up there. Cigars and golf. That's all my dad did his whole life.
See, I respect that so much that your father had the mentality of if the lights are on, I will be here too. Because quite frankly, it's hard to work for somebody that doesn't feel like they're putting in that same effort. They're not
I
burning the
respect.
midnight oil. It is, I'm here, I achieved it. I'm going to go take time off. I'm going to go do whatever. And you guys are going to, I mean, you guys, I'll show up at the factory a couple times a week, stroll in with shorts and sandals and cut shirt just to pick up some mail and wave hi. And then I'm going to go and do whatever. It doesn't sound like that was your fight. It actually sounds like that would have been your father's like epitome of who not to be.
Oh yeah. I mean, my dad. Like, as I said, my grandfather was a politician. I mean, politician like since our dictator Trujillo up until he died. He was always a politician in el partido PRCC, right? And even though my dad never got into politics, he was a people's person. Always worked for his people and always trying to get the best for his employees. And it's two both. It's a kind of a socialist thing, but it's also a capitalist thing. If you think about it, you can have the best tobacco in the world, right? Aged tobacco, best tobacco, best blender in the world. You can have a fucking beautiful blend, beautiful recipe. Dude, if that buncher and that roller are having a bad time or are not happy, you're getting shits. Because at the end of the game,
Yeah.
the heart of the cigar industry, it's the blood is the tobacco, the heart is the buncher and the roller, the team. Those are the guys that are finishing your cigar. You can have all the quality control things. So my dad always believed in helping people with both sides because he believed that if he could, he would. And also because if people were happy, they have no issues. They didn't have money behind their head or they didn't have families. They were making great cigars. You think of let's go back to the artist. You get an artist that's going in a bad groove. His fucking paintings are shit. They're dark. I mean, it's bad emotions, right? You don't want to put bad emotions in a cigar. You don't put happy emotions. Why don't you be happy? You want to be have that control of the tobacco, have that right weight of the tobacco, and that's where it comes from. So he was always about the people. When he was at the factory, obviously he was senior. He was VP. He was at another level, right? There were points where, let's say, he had to get a raise by contract. Period. That was it, right? And I remember there were years he would not take the raise because he could not get the raise for his people. They put, if I don't deserve the raise, they don't deserve the raise because I'm here because they're there. Granted, it was something that it was by law, so it got accumulated, and then he got some. But at that point, it was like, I'm not taking it. I can't take it because these are the guys, Viejo, that are. These are. I'm one. I'm one running a company, Viejo, of 5,000, 4,000 employees. So it's not me. I'm the head, but everybody's there.
No, and that what I have found in my career, the managers I work the hardest for are the managers that will fight in the trenches alongside me for the entire battle and help me win. The managers I did the least for are the managers that took all the credit and never let it roll down. In reality, a great manager should take zero credit for anything because they really did nothing but direct the team. The only way a manager, the only way a CEO, the only way any C-suite level employee looks good is if everybody below them is doing good. And if the C-suite, your father, didn't treat them good, there's no incentive for them to care about how your father looks. And when your dad comes in and goes, nope, if my team's not good enough for a raise, I'm not good enough for a raise. I don't know too many people. I would have a hard time. I'm going to be honest with you. I would have a hard time saying no to that. I'm just being honest. I'm being honest.
My mother was fucking pissed. I can tell you that.
But that is in itself the epitome of integrity. Like that is. Would you honestly be able to do that yourself?
I don't know, honestly.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I would. I'd like to think I would, but I have a family and wife and they need clothes and food too, so that is so commendable. So as you're starting this the Matilde brand, reviving it, and you're pushing forward with it, you meet great people like John Schweitzer, good friend of the show, also now a brand owner as well. When people come to you now for advice, I have X problem with X. How does that make you feel? And part two to that question is, do you ever feel that you will kind of slide out of your father's shadow with the Seijas last name and kind of put your own stamp as your own person in the end? Does that make sense? That's not meant to be disrespectful.
No, it makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world. So, to answer your question, I always would like to be in my dad's presence, but not as a shadow, you said. My dad was always he was a legacy brand guy. So he was always a consistency legacy brand. Montes, Romeo's, H-Up, and Santa Damiana. So these are legacy brands, right? So the way that I try to differentiate myself and keep myself within my dad's shadow is that I believe a lot in core and I believe a lot in consistency. So you're never going to see Matilde coming out with 10 new products in a year. We don't do that. We really create something that we really believe in and then we push it. So that's where my dad comes in when it comes to me. It comes to say, Coño, mira, I need to believe in what I'm creating. It has to be core. It has to be real consistent, and that's the first thing that goes in. Where I try to differentiate myself a little bit is, trying to do blends that are a little bit different, or branding maybe a little bit different, going in that area. But honestly, if I could be in my dad's shadow or in my dad's presence all my life, I would happily be. I would love to fill my dad's shoes completely, and just be say that's Jose Seijas, Enrique Seijas, that's his son, and that's it. I would never be to be as Enrique Seijas. I always want to be Enrique Seijas, the son of Jose Seijas. Does that make sense?
Okay. Okay. Yo, that does. You want to be your own person, but you're never going to feel shame of everybody knowing you as your
Oh,
father's son.
pride. Oh no, pride.
Or
Pride,
you,
100%.
that's a sense of. So some people have the ego where they go, "I'm not my father. Like I'm different. Like stop." And you take the different approaches. I wish I could be my father. I wish
I
I
want to
could
be my
have
father.
his knowledge. Like I want,
Wish.
like the fact that you're saying I'm my father is like it's a compliment. Like thank you.
I wish I could be my father. I wish he would have the integrity, his fucking passion. I mean, it's a, it's just he's a one of a kind person. I mean, I haven't met many people like him, and anybody that's met my father, you can ask. He's one of a kind person. So I'm never going to be able to be my father, but I do strive as much as possible to be as close to my father as I can, because that will bring success to the brand. That will bring success to everything that I've done. Because it, he was a guy that could have the biggest ego in the world. He had no ego. As I asked questions, my dad would say he would eat advice. If when the best stories that I've met uh, from my dad from consumers, right? They went to visit the factory one day, and my dad was blending a cigar. I go, you know what? Yeah, I'm just making it. Try this. I want your opinion. So he was that kind of person. Anybody, I want your opinion, and it's what I believe as well. I mean, I don't make cigars for myself. I want everybody's opinions, everybody's palates. But he was that type of person, and that's the type of person I strive to be. I mean, I want to
So
be like my father. I don't want to be unlike my father.
it sounds like talking to him, he has a way of making you whoever he's talking to feel like the most important person in the room. Hey,
That's good.
I'm just meeting you for the first time. I care about your opinion. Here, let me have it. Like again, people, and he might not do anything with that advice, but the person he gave the cigar to and said, "I care about your opinion." That might have just made their whole visit. Oh my gosh, this master blender gave me a cigar. Now he might not know that your dad does that or has done that previously, but it's that one experience that your father gave to that person where now he's going to go back and go, oh my gosh, this blender actually cared. I'm going to go out and search for his cigars. I'm going to go seek for that. And that's really what I try to do with this show is to show how much everybody is to kind of knock everybody down a peg a little bit in the sense of we're all human, we all make mistakes, but it's what we do with our life and it's what we do with those around you and how we take care of those around you that really inspire people to want to support you. So, hearing your father's story and hearing how you talk about him, hearing the knowledge that he has on this show, anybody watching is going to go, "Well, I don't have a fucking reason not to try his cigars." My God, are you see? Like that's what I like to do. That's where I like to add value to this industry because I don't think a lot of people in the industry probably because your dad's the guy behind the guy that runs the he's the guy that runs the factory. He's not the Carlito, like he's not the guy that can go into a shop and everybody knows. But I don't think he wants to be that
He was a quiet guy. Well, there's an article in Sagrado Cigars called "The Quiet Guy," the quiet man. Jose says a quiet man because he was a quiet guy, very, very, very soft-spoken, few words. When he did a speech, he was a great, very eloquent speaker. Great. When he traveled for marketing for the company because he was a face of the company when he was in office for all the blends and stuff like that. Is that he was elegant, but his thing was mostly about the factory. That was his baby. The rest, Viejo, was just an extra perk for him. Simple as that. The rest just came out, and I think that is the success of successful people, right? They love so much of what they do that they're just thinking about doing it to perfection, and the rest just comes in naturally. Obviously, you have your team, but if you do your job to perfection, it's pretty, or to passion, and just keep on going and grinding. It's pretty hard not to make it. If you run out of fuel, you're fucked, right? But if you do it in a way where you don't run out of fuel, I mean, you're bound to be successful at some point, right?
Yeah, well, you would hope so, as long as you're willing to learn the reasons why you aren't successful. What's
Exactly.
that? Albert Einstein, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. A lot
Here's
of business owners do that.
here's a funny thing about my uncle, Javier Vargas, right? And Matilde's gone through his rough patches. I gone through my rough patches. Be able to what points like any starting company. You say, "Oh, what's going on?" Also, my uncle told me, you know how many companies I feel flopped, or I had to pivot or do this. It's not about the failures you were saying. It's about learning from that failure and saying, okay, we can't go this way. Let's pivot that way. And that was something, pivoting. Pivoting was something my dad loved to say, and my uncle does all the time. It's like you have to pivot. You work, you measure. If it doesn't work, you pivot a little bit. You pivot a little bit. You keep on moving. And maybe your trajectory is never going to be straight, but and that's something that, for example, that's something that I learned when it comes to the core. We always believed in core, right? And initially, we were fucking focused on our core. And it came to a point where it's like, well, you know what? I gotta start coming out with new stuff, the limited stuff, or with stuff that comes in and out, because that's what the market is asking for. But in order to have that, we have a consistent core. So now you're gonna see that we're gonna be developing new stuff and new things coming out, because that's what the market is asking for. I wish I could just keep my core lines in period, but we will develop new stuff because that's what markets that you pivot a little bit, right? But keeping to your core. So how we did it with limited exposure, I kept to my belief that the core for the consumer and for the store, because I think one of the worst things as a cigar smoker or as a store owner is that I create a cigar which you loved as a smoker, and the store owner sold the shit out of, right? But then they won't get it again. You as a consumer are going to come back and say, oh, I want that cigar. Oh, no, I want that cigar. Oh, I want that cigar. You're never going to get it back again. So what we did with our concept with the limited exposure was it is limited, but you will be able to get it back later on in time. So I pivoted towards limited, but keeping our core concept within, which is we want you to be able to get our cigars every single time you need it or when you need them. They're never going to go out. Granted, there will be cigars and blends that we will make, which are 100% limited. We are working on a project that it's my personal project dedicated to my dad. That's going to be a one-shot deal. It's a one run because it's my thank you to my father. That's different. That's a one-shot deal, and we'll have those. But I wanted to make sure that anything that we make, it might be limited in production, but it's something you can't get, because I think it's a way to build the brand. It's the way to create and to support your retailers and support your consumers. Having a limited stuff, it's limited, it's limited, it's limited. It's just a lot of inorganic growth, right? It's quicker growth. If you say, no, let's keep to the core, let's create stuff that goes back to the core, you create and you build a brand loyalty within the retailer and within your consumers.
Mm-hmm.
So we're pivoting, but we're always keeping that focus, saying, I wanted to try to do what's best for my retailers and for my consumers. Because at the end of the game, I don't make cigars for myself. I love them, but I make cigars for you guys. If I was making cigars for myself, I'd be fucked. I couldn't be able to pay for my kids' school, for my house, or anything. I just smoke them all.
No, and I love that, and I think that's like a great take on it. I love the limited exposure idea that you use. That's actually the first time I've ever heard that. I like calling yearly limited releases that limited exposure because that really the way you defined it definitionally makes much more sense than a limited edition because a true limited edition, it's like when a band retires, Rolling Stones, like 7 times they have retirement concerts. And you're like, all right, I don't even, I've been to all 7 limited retirement concerts and there's 2 more coming up. And you're like, I don't even know what to do anymore. It becomes the boy that cried wolf. Like, and so I love that the way you defined it. I think that's fantastic. Um, I think I know the answer to this, and this is just a yes or no. And then I have a question to ask you about Matilde, where we could find them, and then lightning round to wrap the show. The way you defined limited edition and limited exposure, the, the way you worded it, there would never be a limited edition that could ever become a core line, like some brands have done. It just did so well because you defined it as I can't get this anymore. Did I explain that
Yeah.
correct? So nobody should ever expect to see a limited edition blend from Matilde ever fall into a core line. But if the limited exposure does very well, that may, depending on how much you can get, be considered to fall into a core.
Well, the thing with limited exposure, the limited exposure. What happens is that depending on the market reaction, we increase or we decrease production, right? Obviously, you always want the production to increase. So let's say if you have a market demand of 100 boxes, right? Those 100 boxes go in 3 months. So you'll get, and they flew, right? So what do? We prepare, and instead of making 100 boxes, we make 150 boxes for the next run, right? So what happens is that it keeps on growing within the market, but always being a product that's going to be limited towards its demand.
Okay,
Does that make
so we'll
sense?
never see a Matilde cigar limited exposure or limited edition because of how you define it become, oh, now we can make this a core
No,
because
our
you
core is
want
our core.
those to be special.
Yeah, our core is our core. Our core,
So
Serena, Serena Maduro, Renacer, Cuadrata, and Oscura. And when we create a core, it's part of the core. When it's part of the
so
limited exposure program, it's part. And it might be we have limited exposure number 1, number 2. It might be that we develop number 3, and we stop making a number 1 for a while. So it's a rotational thing when it comes to limited exposure. Limited editions, we made. If it was 100 cigars, it's 100 cigars. It's 100,000 cigars, 100,000 cigars. That's what was made, and that's it.
all right, so anybody watching, if you see Matilde say limited edition, fucking buy it because it's gone when it's done. All right, they're not going to be releasing the 6th year of the same limited edition cigar. If you see limited exposure, those may go away, but those will come back over time. So still buy all you can, but know that those will come back. Um, so I love how you define that. I appreciate that very much. Now, here's a guy I know for a fact buys pretty much every brand that comes on the show. Where can Bruce and those watching, if you have an online retailer that your cigars are in, how can they find your stuff?
They can go to the website, matildecigars.com, and you can go to our retailers, and they can find it in the retailer section.
Is
Just
there an
retailer.
online store that you would throw out just in case there's nothing close by?
Oh yeah, we have worked very closely with Neptune Cigars in up in Florida.
Perfect, perfect. So you can go to, if you can't find them close to you, there's not a shop on their store locator close to you. You can go to Neptune and pick them up, try them, give them a shot. There is a ton of knowledge, and there's more knowledge lost in this family about the tobacco industry than I know I will ever even remotely know.
And in Colorado, you can always get them at tobacco leaf, John. That's
I
for
was
sure.
going to say, of course, if you're in
Just saying.
Colorado, reach out to John Schweitzer. I guarantee you, if you're in Colorado, the cigar lounges, you know the name. Okay,
Uh,
one of the youngest guys that's known by everybody in the industry. He's
Great
like
fucking guy.
he's Henderson's Ventura age, and he knows everybody. So definitely you could reach out to John. John also reps for them. So you could reach out to John and John can direct you in how to get those cigars as well. And by the way, let's flood John's messenger with a whole bunch of requests, like just start blowing them up. And just start just crash his messenger. Um,
I would love to see that.
I know Enrique will not be disappointed by that. So, so here, Enrique, in kind of the lightning round segment here for about the last 15 minutes or so, uh, what who is Enrique when he's not Matilde?
Family. Family for
What?
me is king. Family. I told you I used to travel a shit ton more than I do now. Once I had my kid, I have a 5-year-old son called Gonzalo, and I have a 1-year-old son called Rodrigo. And I'm 100% hands on with them when I'm in the Dominican Republic. Everything I do for them. So I am 100% family oriented person. Besides
What
that, we go hanging out with friends.
what's a hobby you have outside of your personal love of cigars? Outside of the industry.
Well, hobbies. I play all with my kids. I love playing tennis. I used to run a lot. Actually, I just I'm gonna start running again. It's the exercising and traveling. We have one of the things I love the most to do, and it includes smoking cigars. My dad, we built a cabin about 25, 30 years ago in the mountains in Jarabacoa. So the mountains of the Dominican Republic. And one of the things I love to do the most is actually either go to that place and relax and just take life in, or go to the beach with family and friends. And one of the things that it's beautiful about the Dominican Republic is that we have beaches, mountains, an hour and 45 minutes away. Other thing I like to do, I love to cook. I cook in my house. Actually, my wife doesn't know how to cook. I'm the one that cooks when we don't have any help. And I actually learned in college. I went to the States, to Rochester, New York, to study, and our dorm food was so bad that I said, fuck it. It was bad and expensive. I'm like, fuck it. We have 4 roommates. We chipped in, and we created viejo. We learned how to cook, and it's something that's been passionate about since ever. I just play around with cooking.
Yeah, I'm an eater and I like to cook. I want to travel for the food. Everyone's like, "Oh, I want to go see this mountain. Is there a restaurant close by?" Like, because I'll be honest with you, us Americans love our guns. I carry a gun everywhere. If my friends see me running, they instantly know to run. They're not thinking I'm doing it for exercise. They're going, "Holy shit, something's coming!" And it's scared the hell out of Ryan. We're running, you know.
You want
So
you want to talk about culture shocks? Guns. That shit was a huge culture shock when I started traveling to the States. Like guns here are very rare and expensive. I'm talking like you're talking about a Glock 16 or whatever they are. They're like 4, 5, 6, $7,000 in the Dominican Republic. Yes, I know. Look at your face. And I'm traveling in the States and I go to a fucking gun shop. You get a fucking Glock like for 500, $600. And they're just like, oh, yeah, yeah, you can buy it, you get your license and shit like that. Or, you get AKs. That was huge. I was like, what the fuck? What is this? I mean, wow, you guys take your guns very seriously when it comes to that. That was a huge, huge, huge for me. Like, oh, look at that. I went to the cigar shop that had like guns in it. So I was like, oh, look at this shit. Cigars and guns. Oh,
well, so the cigar community leans 70-30 conservative to Democrat, and the cigar community is very, very big gun community. Absolutely. And you know what? You got Mike because your mom came in. Says when a brand owner's mom jumps on an interview, you have to try it. That was great. Exactly what my mom would. Thanks for the interview. So no, you're not the first one that I've heard that too. As far as the culture shock of the guns, we love our guns. That's what. That's what. Yeah. That's why. Like I said, most of my friends, if I'm out with my daughter and my wife, I carry concealed everywhere. Everywhere. Like my wife's like, "Oh, can you leave it at home for we go have a beer?" Nope, nope, because that I'd rather have it, not need it, and quite frankly, one drink isn't going to do a damn thing for me. I'm 240 pounds, so I would rather need it, not have it, than have it, not need, or have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. So I get how that's a culture shock. The whole world, it's a culture shock when they come here around guns.
That's
Like
us. Second Amendment, right? Right to their
Second
arms.
Amendment, yes, yes. And we love it here. I mean, we love it here, and especially Texas and Florida and so on and so forth. So,
I,
um, go ahead.
no, I would say I tell my wife all the time. There's always news about you. Like, woman, where I go, there's never going to be a shooting.
Hmm.
There's so many guns where I go. There's never going to be a shooting. Any cigar shop you raise, who's packing? And 99.99% of the guys
Oh
shoot.
yeah, oh yeah. It'd be like going into a law enforcement office and trying to shoot it up. You're gonna get
Exactly.
shot. You're gonna get shot back, and you might not make it out. One of the wives' tales is what they call like old stories with just to show a point without ever actually being proven true. So granddad used to tell me a story. Granddad's from Ocala, Florida. Granddad used to tell me a story about how this old lady was pulled over by a cop and for speeding and she went to go open the glove box and she's like, well, I'm just telling you, I have a gun in there and I have a gun in my center console. They're both handguns and I have a handgun in my purse. And the cop looks at the old lady and she goes, he's like, what are you afraid of? She said, not a damn thing.
True.
It's very true. No, it's so true. So, what is your favorite size cigar?
I am gravitating a lot towards lawn sales, 42 by 6.
Dude, 38 to 48 is my go-to ring gauge. Absolutely.
There's a
What is
funny.
your Go ahead.
I'm sorry. There's a thing with ring gauges. Everybody talks about filler, wrapper, binder, right? But ring gauges have such a big impact, not only because of the wrapper proportion, adds a lot to the flavor, but then you have the concentration of smoke. So bigger ring gauges bring in a lot more air, so your smoke is more diluted. When you get that smaller ring gauges, you get so much. It packs so much flavor in the cigar. Like I love lanceros, for example. But lanceros is a cigar you smoke at a certain point. Like if I'm with my kid, I will never smoke a lancero. It's impossible.
Go. Go.
You have to sit down, take it in, and smoke. Lancero for me is a beautiful compromise between lanceros and coronas. A little bit bigger than longer than your coronas, a little bit shorter than lanceros, a little bit thicker. So you have that nice compromise. So I think gravitated along towards a lanceros, and I also like your petit coronas. Actually,
Oh
from our lines, we don't commercialize them, but I always have petit coronas made for me for two reasons. Because when I travel, I want to smoke the cigar shops I go. I'm never, you turn around and I'm a very, very slow smoker. Look, this was a Toro, and I'm still smoking it, right? So I'm a very slow smoker. If I light up I'm sorry, a Robusto, I was smoking. If I light up a Robusto or a Toro, I'm bound to fucking leave a whole bunch of it without being smoked. I've always said, if I do not have the time to pay respect to the cigar and smoke it completely, I won't light it up. So I have those petite Coronas for when I'm with my family, with my wife's family. None of my wife's family smokes. Funny story is that I dated my wife like for three months, and we used to go on weekends like at the beaches. Like every other weekend, we used to go to the beach with the family. And they used to ask me, Enrique, are you in the cigar industry because you like cigars, or because of your dad. I'm like, what do you mean? "Yeah, I never see you smoking." I'm like, yeah. Well, first of all, none of you smoke. Second, I don't like smoking on the beach because of the airflow, right? And I don't have the time to smoke when I'm with you because we're moving around. If I can't sit down, relax for an hour and a half, light up a cigar, and enjoy it, I just won't. So those were I love the Petit Coronas. You get a lot of flavor, and it's just a shorter smoke. It's up for a 30-minute smoke, so it's great for me.
Absolutely, because you're not addicted to them. You can go, I don't need it. It's fine. You
It's a
know.
pleasure.
So what is your favorite uh cut? Are you a picker, biter, straight, V?
Picker.
Your thumbnail. Okay.
I'm a picker. Picker.
9 out of 10. I love that. Like 4 out of 5 dentists. Who's that fifth fucking dentist? 9 out of 10 people I talk to in the industry, that's what they are. They're pickers, especially when
I,
they're in the manufacturing side.
I always have cigars. I rarely have a lighter or cut. So I'm always a picker. I would say, you find fire anywhere, you can cut the cigar anywhere. I mean, I always have my cigars with me. Maybe I don't have. Oh, you looked at me. I've taken out like 3 lighters. They're all empty. So it's easy. It's clean, and if when you make the cigar, you put the cap on, and you very very softly just press your nails around it. You take that cap like if it was a cutter. So it reduces the amount of stuff that you carry. You don't have to carry it. You're traveling. Honestly, that's why I rarely smoke figurados, because I never have a cutter on me. It's not that I don't
Yeah,
like them.
they're
It's
hard.
just like, I mean, can't bite that motherfucker.
No.
So I like picking.
What's your favorite wrapper? And what's a tobacco that you haven't worked with yet that you would love to?
So I like H2000. I love H2000 from Ecuador. Beautiful sweetness, nice acidity to it. When it comes to cigar, San Andrés Maduro, so your Altepeca from Mexico. I love it. If you notice, we have we have 3 cigars that have that wrapper. We have the Serena Maduro, which has Mexican. We have limited exposure #1 that has Mexican, and then the Oscura that has a Mexican. So I really love it. It's a cigar that burns very well. It has a beautiful sweetness to it, and it adds a lot of depth and herb to the cigar. And a cigar that I always wanted to work with, and I am now working. My dad loved Peruvian tobacco, and his blend. There's the Seijas signature blend. If you ever find a cigar which has a very undisclosed white band with a signature, my dad's signature on it. If you find it, buy it. It's a 5 blend cigar. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful smoke. Extremely well balanced. It's very hard to find anymore. But if you find it, buy it. Beautiful blend. And that has Peruvian tobacco. My dad loved it. So I've always wanted to work with that. And we just finalized a project where I'm working with that tobacco. So that's a tobacco that I had never worked with, and I will start working with now. And the other thing I want to do a project with broadleaf. Not doesn't have to be binder. It doesn't have to be the wrapper. It could be a binder, but I want to integrate broadleaf into our portfolio at some point.
I would, yeah, I love broadleaf. Yeah, I love broadleaf. And I love the fact that you're working with tobacco that was a big deal for your dad that you wanted to. Again, I love the family story. So much of what you do is wrapped in that family, and like it. I don't know. I love that story. The story you told tonight about your father. I really appreciate you going down that path. That was just so much fun. What is your favorite pairing? Excuse me, I don't know what happened to my voice. What is your favorite pairing for a cigar drink wise? And typical question I get is, what is the best way to cleanse your palate between cigars?
Sparkling water for cleansing. That's what I usually do. And pairing coffee. I love
Okay.
cigars with coffee in the morning, and I do aged. So anything that's barrel aged, either whiskey or rum. I'm a big rum drinker, so I gravitate a lot towards strong rum when I'm drinking and smoking. But honestly, I smoke a lot of cigars fucking with water just to take in the cigar. One of the best ever made. What is one of the best ever made, John?
Your
Say a
cigars.
signature?
Your
Oh, I would
cigars.
agree with it. Este, but yeah, those would be like the main go-tos that I work with. It's either rum and whiskey when it comes like when I'm out drinking, usually on the rocks. I rarely have mixed drinks. Anything I drink is on the rocks. But day to day, I do water and coffee. Those for me, coffee goes perfect with cigars.
Awesome. And then last question to end the lightning round. Just because you brought it up, I'm throwing this in special for you. What was your favorite food you learned to make in college? And what was one of your favorite experiences in New York?
Favorite food, I still make it. I make awesome porcini mushroom risotto.
Wow,
There's
you got fucking fancy in college. Holy shit, dude. I'm over here like ramen. What's your favorite flavor of ramen? And you're over here like mushroom risotto. I
don't
would
get me
never have
wrong.
guessed that.
You know the boxes of ramen. I used to buy those in Sam's Club and have it under my bed. So that shit was my But the thing is that we were a group of we were four roommates in Dominican Republic, and the food was a lot cheaper, like buying stuff like this. So we experimented, and I was cooking, right? So I was able to take everybody's budget and just fuck around with whatever goes. So anything I wanted to do, like, oh, let's try this. Okay, let's do that. Let's do the shopping, and just try stuff out. But I like cooking steaks and pastas, but that porcini mushroom risotto is killer for me. I love it. I still do
Sounds
it. My wife loves
incredible.
it. And
Sounds
funnest experiences in college. I was blessed, man. Right? I was. I've had great parents. They given me everything. I was blessed. So as a college student, shit, as I said, we were four roommates. We lived in an apartment. We used to throw open bars every other weekend. Usually in colleges, you used to do bring your own booze, right?
oh yeah.
And we're like, fuck it. I mean, we're going to the club. We're going to be spending 50, 60 bucks, 70 bucks. We all of us got together. We took 250 bucks, 300 bucks, and we just had open parties, viejo, in our houses, and that was always a lot of fun. We were known for like the Latinos that throw the open parties, and it was fucking Rochester. Half of 3/4 of the year was miserable outside. So like fuck it, let's just party inside. So I partied a lot. I partied a lot and enjoyed my life a lot, and I have my parents to thank for that. And but yeah, those were great experiences. College experiences for me was good. But those were my favorite things. Those open bars that we used to do. You're like in the top of the world when you were doing that.
Yeah, we used to call them Thirsty Thursdays at the college
Thursday,
we went to.
Thursday.
And we would have keggers Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday pretty much at different houses. No mushroom risotto, porcini mushroom risotto. And I'm telling you, now I've got to go figure out how to fucking make this thing because that sounds so good. I love mushrooms. I love risottos. You throw that with a steak. Oh, this is why I'm fat, everybody. This is why I'm the fat guy. Okay. This is why my camera angle is chest high for the show. But in all seriousness, Enrique, thank you so much, man, for coming on, opening up about your family, and wow, what an amazing story you have. I'm looking forward to trying your cigars. I'm going to be hounding John to get some. Thank you so much for coming on. You have an incredible story. And again, oftentimes there's so many huge people in the backgrounds that nobody knows about. And I'm so glad the Seijas family now has their shining spotlight to get that name in front of everybody that can purchase a cigar. And hopefully, when you go to these lounges, all you see are your cigars, or at least vast majority of them being smoked around. Like that, you have an
I
amazing
love the sound
story.
of that.
And thank you
Thank you
so
so much,
much
bro.
for coming and sharing. So it is incredibly late over at the D. Not incredibly late. It's like 11, right? But I have a 2.5-year-old, so thinking about staying up past 10 is exhausting. Um,
I
so
understand.
with that, thank you. So yes, right. You have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. Jesus, you're getting now. I do actually, I got one more for you. One more really quick, if I may. At
Yeah.
what age will you not care if your kids grab a cigar?
It's not about what age I would care. It's about what age my wife would care.
Well said.
Nah, but
What?
I mean, once you're in the age that you can discern what's good and what's bad, I'm good with that. Like I started drinking when I was 14 and a half, 15. So at that age, when my son wants to light up a cigar with me, I'm down with that. If he wants to let me, my wife would honestly try to kill me, but at some point he's gonna light up a cigar with me. Like he was at my office 2 days ago. He took a cigar. He's like, "Papa, Papa, how do I create smoke?" And you put the cigar like, "How do I create smoke?" And no, you're too young. You're only 5. And then the kids started playing with the light. Like, Mijo, stop playing with that. Mijo, stop playing with it. And I hear fucking bird himself. Like, so what don't you do? You do not play with lighters. But honestly, for me, it depends on how mature he is. I mean, anything over 18 or 21, because that's a legal smoking age.
That is the correct answer. That is the correct. I never did anything illegal below the legal age period. So, but no, in all seriousness, Enrique, you have an amazing family. It sounds like an incredible father with a wealth of knowledge that the vast majority of the cigar community will never even understand or comprehend how much he's forgotten. You will be at that point, my friend, and I long for the day when everybody around you calls you that master blender title so you can sit and go, I hit it. I hit it. Even though I know, knowing you, you're always going to be like, what's going to make me better? I didn't hit it. How can I continue? So, with that said, thank you so much for coming on. This has been another live Thursday night show. Big shout out to all the sponsors. West Tampa Tobacco. We're going to go backwards this time. La Aurora, Cornell and Diehl, Big Sky Cigars, Micallef, Berger Cigars, Sagrado, Kristoff Cigars, ROCF, and BAMF Cigars. And until we see you all again, smoke what you like, smoke as often as you can, and have a great, great rest of your week.
Thank you
Bye,
guys. Thanks,
everyone.
Ryan, for having me.